Hey yo, it's Guido coming at you with a tactics talk. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate all your support out there. I have for you today a review of the T-54 lightweight, the Tier 9 Russian light tank, a scout that's been moved up from Tier 8 to Tier 9. We'll take a look at the tank as compared to its peers in garage. We'll take a look at the tech tree. Then we'll do a comparison between the lightweight and the other Tier 9 scouts, talk a little bit about the upgrades themselves, go into how I have mine set up, and then we'll run into some gameplay, give an example of gameplay for that tank. So as you can see here, it is the lightweight in my garage, fairly large for a scout, and it looks like a standard Russian hover medium. And overall, this plays a lot like a medium. Compared to the T-49, you can see that it's a little bit shorter but taller. The WZ, very similar layout, although that can be deceiving, and we'll talk about how that is deceiving. The RU, quite a bit of a different layout, just about as low on the silhouette, and of course the French, which is very much different, much smaller, the smallest of the lot. So the T-54 lightweight is about the biggest. It actually is the biggest and heaviest of the Tier 9 scouts that have moved up from Tier 8 and gone to Tier 9. Realize the 132 Alpha is a new tank, although it is based on obviously the WZ-132, which stayed at Tier 8. The rest of the four moved up to Tier 9. So let's take a look at the tech tree itself. On the Russian line, the end result being the T-100 LT now, which is the new tank over here. And if you go all the way back to the beginning, you're starting at the BT-7, you go to the A-20, there is a fork in the road there, so it's not a bad line. You can jump over to the T-34, which has a lot of fantastic tanks. The A-20, the BT-7 actually, A-20, T-50, MT-25 are all fantastic scouts. I can't talk the LTG. I've not played that one yet. It got inserted into the line when they re-wickered the whole thing, and then the LTTB was moved up from Tier 7 to Tier 8. It is a fantastic scout as well. Then you can see the T-54. The nice thing about this line is obviously the branching area back here at the A-20. Going down to the T-34 is nice. And then there is a branch of the LTTB going to the T-54 or the T-54 lightweight. So any of those branching lines are nice because they get you further content down the road that you don't have to go through an entire line. If you're a completionist and are going to do all of them, then that's not really a big deal. But it is nice you can get to the LTTB, jump to the T-54 or the lightweight. Realize to do that, you've got to play a lot of LTTB to get both of those unlocked with all the experience required. And that is the tech tree. One thing to watch out for, the MT-25 has 5 crew members, and to be honest, I didn't check the LTG. The LTG has 4. So this is the odd man out. I believe the rest of them, potentially BT, oops, let's go back here. He's got 3, so that's going to be goofy to begin with. So you're going to have 3, then you've got to run to 4. The MT-25 has 5, and then you're back to 4 for the rest of them through to the T-100, which then has 3. So you're going to be doing a little bit of shenanigans with the crew as far as the merry-go-round, adding guys and taking them out. Alright, let's talk a quick bit about the upgrades. So when they moved these Tier 8s to Tier 9, they did buff the tanks, even though oddly, well not oddly, even though those tanks were running fine essentially as Tier 9 tanks because you were running with the Scout Matchmaker. So the basic T-54, unbuffed before this last patch, operated at Tier 9 all the time and did a decent job or a good job as a scout. In fact, it was one of the go-to tanks at Tier 8, especially when you start talking competitive. When you're running competitive Tier 8 tanks, there wasn't any scout matchmaking. So the lightweight and the RU were the go-to tanks for competitive, especially if you're running the fast tanks. That means they were pretty good. So they moved them to Tier 8 where they operated already, and they buffed them. So that was a very good thing for that tank. Of course, it calls into question what exactly the meta intention is for scouts at that point. Since they were running as scouts anyway, unbuffed, now you put them into Tier 9 and buff them, they become more of damage dealing tanks. I won't get too much into the meta as far as any further than I just talked about, but it will be interesting to see how it pans out. So things like it got a better gun, even the radio changed, it appears, or they removed one of them anyway. Some different ammo. The cost of fixing it was increased, obviously. The gun is a little bit better. Some of the soft stats are better. The power is better as far as the speed and reverse is one example of being better. The engine horsepower went 520 to 800, and the hit points were increased by 50, which is not a whole bunch. But you can see that a lot of little buffs makes this tank even better than it was at Tier 8, even though it essentially sees the same battles that it used to. So let's go into the comparison. And you can see they've got the lightweight on the left side and the rest of the tanks that are its peers, the 251, 1390, WZ-132 Alpha, and the T-49. I have this set up with no perks, no skills, no equipment, and 100% cruise. So what you see is what you get here. Taking a look at this then, starting at the top with firepower, you'll see that the lightweight is running with 250 average damage. The odd man out here is the WZ at 320, which is a significant upgrade, but that is at the cost of reload time. We'll talk about that in a minute. Penetration at 208 is on the low end for the rest of them. Rate of fire 8.69 is decent. Obviously T-49 is the top of the pack right there at 10.43, which is a significant advantage over the rest of them. You can see the WZ I talked about at 6.8 rounds a minute, which is quite slow for a scout. Reload times at 6.9 for the lightweight. You can see the rest of the numbers right there. Looking at the turret traverse, now this is where the lightweight shines. It is the Soviet hover medium technology to include a good amount of power as far as the horsepower per ton. So it will get moving and it will spin in place very well. Now that's the turret traverse. I got a little ahead of myself talking about the whole traverse, but you add those two together and this thing can really turn and track. Gun depression loses out a little bit there. -5 is kind of hard to use overall. You can see it's on par with the Chinese, and even the elevation is kind of crummy at 17. It's a little bit low. So you've got to be cognizant that this thing does not have a lot of depression, so running ridges and worrying about pieces of terrain that lift your gun up is something you're going to have to deal with. Aiming time is decent, right in there with the rest of them. Dispersion is okay, sort of towards the bad end, so the gun is a little bit troll, but all these guns are fairly decent as far as sniping. The average damage per minute, right in there amongst the rest. You can see the T-49 has a significant lead on everybody. Now survivability is where this tank, I'm going to say shines, but that's not really what I mean, because it's a scout, right? It's a light, even with decent armor. It doesn't really shine at Tier 9, but it does have one advantage, and that's its turret armor, which is significant with the very curved armor and 180 millimeters. That's pretty good on the front of the turret. Even the side at 120 is good. So you will get some bounces off the turret. Even the whole armor is decent, especially as compared to the rest of the scouts. But you're not going to rely on armor with this tank. It's just that if you do manage to get hull down, you can occasionally get a troll bounce off the turret, which is a questionable thing to have as a benefit on a scout, obviously. For the mobility, now we're talking about that discussion. I got ahead of myself earlier. You can see the engine power is 1,000 horsepower. Traverse speed, there it is on the hull, which is 52, significantly better than the rest of the pack. I mean, this thing will really just spin on a dime and circle people and is very, very maneuverable, very comfortable to play and fight close in and raging around in. So pretty good as far as that goes. The top speed is right in there amongst them. Actually 1 mile per hour lower than the fastest, which is the RU, so it really can get in and get out of places. Concealment is indifferent at 16 or so, no big deal. On the view range is at 390. And look at that, it is the best in class at signal range. Alrighty. In case that's something you're worried about. Looking at my setup, you see I've got a pretty good crew. Don't judge me for not having brothers in arms on these guys yet, but I don't. 4-skill crew working on their 5th. My equipment then is running with the medium caliber tank gun rammer, improved ventilation, and I do run coated optics, which is a little different for me because I am running this tank. Sorry, let's get the right tank. How about that? Medium caliber tank gun, enhanced gun laying drive, and vertical stab. All right, there you go. So this one, obviously optics would replace in most people's books the enhanced gun laying drive or vents. So either one of those is probably a better option. I just happen to like the DLG, and that's what I am using. If you're going to run a passive scout operation, then thinking about binocs or camo, but that's not really this thing's forte. This tank is, to more of an extent than the rest of its peers, it really does a pretty good job at the brawling light tank meta, which seems to be creeping in just a little bit. Wolf packing, getting in amongst, maneuvering, making people miss by movement, that kind of thing is where this tank really shines. It remains to be seen if that is an actual meta or if it's just something that people are doing now because they have a lot of these new scouts and they're checking them out. And you can see, unlike what I was talking about incorrectly with the 132 Alpha, this crew has 3 skills and then the extra one with no brothers in arms. I should fix that. And there you go. That is how my T-54 lightweight is set up. Let's move on to some gameplay and talk a little bit about how this thing can be played. Alright, here's an example I've loaded into Winterberg, Tier 9, in a 2-tier battle, and I am top tier. So I mentioned earlier that this tank is something of a medium light hybrid. So it has T-54 in its name. You got to be careful though, it's not exactly a T-54, but at times it can fight a lot like one. And more so than the rest of its peers, it can operate as a medium quite effectively. And in fact, in competitive play when it was a Tier 8, that's more or less what it did. Pretty fantastically. And now with the buffs, it's even better. On this map, we are on Winterberg, as I noted, and I'm going to take the middle road. From the north spawn, taking the middle road is pretty key. And that is something that mediums like T-54s would do. And this tank can actually do it quite nicely as well. Got a T-50 North, T-50, easy for me to say, T-49 trolling around looking for a shot, but I can't get one. And then we've got a T, or a 1390. I really have T on the brain. I'll take a shot and I'm spotted. I'm going to come out. And the nice thing about this tank is the turret armor. There you go. Guy bounced off my turret, so unless he can actually get that shot on my hull, he's going to suffer some hits. So I'll get a couple shots in there on that guy. And I'm checking 6 because one of the things that the enemy can do when you've grabbed to the middle like this is to come around this corner right here, especially if you don't have anybody up here pushing them back, and shoot you down right in the behind. In addition, they can come up this road and do the same thing. So checking 6 is always a good idea. 1390, just shoot right through that rock, no problem. As long as it's not heat, it'll go through there, or HE. So just shoot my regular AP at this point. You'll note that this tank does have a rather low ammunition count. You'll also note that I'm a complete buffoon and I have 8 HE shells in it. I have fixed that since then, but this was right after the change, and I did not notice that they had to reset it when I set up the gun and everything else. Now, I am flexing into more of a T-54 role here, pushing in. I've noted that there's quite a few tanks over there in the town. They don't seem to have a whole bunch up in the east part, or the little town, the little village up there, and they have a couple already who are probably back here, so I don't suppose they have very much in here. Got a wounded T-49, come around here. Do a kind of crummy job. He actually shot at me. You can see it if you zoom out. I didn't realize that during the game, so I'm really backing up. I'm also expecting maybe a couple friends to come rage around the corner, but nothing happens. And then I see the impact crater and go, holy cow, he fired. I don't have as much time as I would like, and then somebody else helps me. I shoot the T-54 in the back. I'm backing out. Oh, looks like he wants to come. Hey, look, here's another customer. So pretty good rate of fire. I'm able to shoot. Running a bit of the medium right now. Guy comes around. I'm going to take that hit, and I'm just going to chase him in. Get a little lock. You can see the maneuverability on this thing. Quite maneuverable. Shoot. Jump right up there. Whoa. Good news is he didn't actually come at me. Had he come at me, he probably would have shot me. But you can see the very significant mobility of the tank, how I just spun right around there, no problem. Doesn't have any trouble getting around things. Ring around the rosy with the bulldog. You see the nice speed on the tank, really gets moving. Take a shot, lit on fire, a little ram kill, and he is done. The mill's going to hurt me. Kind of looking for shots here, but unfortunately he's reloaded. Oh, I bounced. Holy cow, I'm going to get another hit. Whack. Okay, good. Little help. And we're winning pretty handily. So you can see that it actually can operate if you're careful and clever with the maneuver and a little lucky. I'm going to shoot at the T-49, who's obviously well behind a building. It can operate, as I was saying, like a medium. Stopping right there is probably not a great idea. Took a hit from the Centurion and barely survived it. And now I'm tucking up here. So I did kind of a medium scout hybrid move to the middle. It's not that unusual for scouts to go there either, but then got aggressive with all the guys that I had on the east side, swinging to more of a medium type idea, getting in there and mixing it up, using the maneuverability to minimize the amount of exposure I had. And now I'm looking for extra shots. I just take a terrible shot here, rush it a little bit. Get spotted. Centurion's still there. Probably the T-49 saw me. There's quite a few tanks now backed up in this corner, which is very strange. But there they are. Replay doesn't do a good job of showing the highlight, but I had a highlight on him. T-49 dies, so that's going to be their main eyes down that direction. I'm looking for the Centurion. I don't see him. Bounce off the low. Wish I'd have gone to gold right there. But everything was going well enough. I didn't feel like I needed it quite yet. Not sure that would have even pinned the upper plate on the low. Probably not. And now I'm just looking for a way to get in here. I've got 30 hit points, so getting spotted and hit right now is really not the best plan. So I'm just going to try to hang back. We are winning by enough that me sitting back a little bit and just taking these pot shots really isn't hurting the team. Potentially hurting my damage, but it's not hurting the team. There's that T-34. We'll go into his upper plate. Again, gold might have gone through that one. I'm just going to back up and make sure I'm not spotted, but it looks like no one's close enough, so I'll just sit in here now. There's one. No problem, just sit here. T-59 or Type 59 is looking through those windows, but I can't really get a highlight on him, so I just have to watch him. Take a shot. That's unlucky. It goes right on the top deck into the crease, into the turret ring, and doesn't go in. T-34 still doing his best. No shot on him. There he is. Another shot. Very good. Someone thumps him hard. Now I'm spotted. He's not looking at me. Boom. And it's just the Type. I'll just back up. If he gets to that window, he may end up killing me. And now for the big finish. You can cue the Dukes of Hazzard music right now. Get ready for a yeehaw. Only got 2 regular shells left. Type's hiding in the corner. Oh, look at this ramp. It's looking good. What's it going to be? Am I going to be able to kill him? Oh, I overshot. Only did 14. He sees me. I get a shot at him, and he nails me. So, could have been an epic kill right there, but was fun anyway. And then you can see a little bit about the T-54 lightweight. Can run as a scout, can run a little bit as a medium as long as you're careful. Overall, it's a very good tank. The upgrade to Tier 9 did not hurt it in any way, shape, or form. Highly recommend it. I hope this helped. If you like what you see, make sure you subscribe. Otherwise, we will see you.